It sometimes seems that every producer on the internet, everybody making beats online and selling beats online is making money hand over fist and living in luxury. Obviously, that can't be true. But a lot of producers are scared and uncomfortable sharing their financial situations, their earnings, their contracts, their various agreements with the producer community. So a lot of us have no real reference point for what it's like to be a producer struggling and striving towards becoming a career musician. One producer, a pop producer, which is funny because I always say, don't make rap, make pop, because rap doesn't pay. Rap producers are broke, pop producers are rich. But a pop producer based in LA just recently revealed all of his monthly earnings, and the man is broke by LA standards. Broke. And that's why it's such an amazing and brave thing that he did. So what we did was we broke down his finances, no pun intended, and discussed what he was doing and how this can apply to you as a producer on your journey. All the full podcast episodes are linked in the description. We appreciate you tuning in and checking out the new channel. Thank you so much.
A producer posted a video or posted like carousel, and he said what I made in a year as how much I made in 2024 as a broke music producer in LA. And so $39,549. And so even just to start, I would just like to talk about how this is a visual hook. He tells you exactly what he's about to break down. A lot of times people are like, I don't know what to post or content. This is just a picture of him, words on the screen, and then you're immediately interested because he calls himself broke. He says he's living in LA, then he gives you a total. All of us here know that you can't live live off of $40,000, especially if you're taking taxes, but especially in LA. So you're kind of like, okay, so then what does he do, right? So he flips. January, he made $1,490. February, he made $3,500 or almost $3,600. And he said he had a big royalty payout that came. He also went viral on TikTok, and it low-key changed his life. So clearly, even if he got paid from that TikTok, life-changing money isn't what he's insinuating. So you're like, okay, how did it change his life? I guess through marketing, whatever. The next month he makes like less than $2,000. The following month he makes like $2,500. Around the same in May. Then June he's at like $4,600 again, which is great. July he's like $1,500. But July he's like, I was on tour nonstop. I didn't really have a lot of time, but I did a cool project in Madrid, whatever. So he's kind of breaking down. You're starting to get curious about, okay, how does he make his money? If he's in Madrid, he's on tour, you know what I'm saying? Again, visual hooks. So now you're like 6-7 slides in, but you want to keep swiping at this point. The next month in August, he makes $13,000, which I think is about what people would think like a rich or super successful producer would make in a month. I don't know what people's imaginations are like, but to me, if I were to see this as January, I'd be like, okay, this makes sense. He's a really solid producer. He talked about his song coming out. He got paid for a big gig that he finished in July, and then he got paid to produce a project. Next month, highs and lows, he made $800, which is very much like the music industry. You have your best month ever, and then your worst month. October, he ends up with $5,000. He said a bunch of royalty checks come through. For those of you who haven't been paid big checks yet, April and October are typically when you'll see your royalty checks coming from publishing, Sound Exchange, different thing. Well, Sound Exchange, it depends on your setup, but you may get it every month. November, he got $550. Again, highs and lows of the music industry. And then December, he ended off with $1,800. He just basically ended by saying, hey, I didn't make enough to fully support myself in the year, but I'm lucky that I'm also a musician on tour, and that's how I support myself. And so I just want to talk about breaking up your business, diversification, but then also this level of transparency. This goes back to our first episode of this year, where Payne talked about how transparency is one of the benefits of the music industry right now. And I think transparency is aided by things like social media. It could either be halted or aided. Some people are pretending to be superstars and you have no idea about their income. Like, he makes good money on the road. there, you could speculate. I'm not going to check his pockets, but if you do a little bit of digging, you can see that he tours pretty consistently, especially if he's in places like Madrid. He was in Spain. I think I saw somewhere he was in Italy. So he's doing European tours, like multi-date European tours, not just like South Carolina, Atlanta, Florida. And no disrespect to anybody doing those tours, but to take a band internationally, you have to be making a decent amount, right, as an artist, and paying your band a good amount. So, yeah, I want to discuss it. I want to know y'all's thoughts. I presented this, and so I've talked a lot. I want to know y'all's thoughts on diversifying the amount of money that you make, and then even him doing this as a case study or as a moment of transparency for other artists and musicians to understand the genetic makeup of his money.
That's why I say that Spotify checks are the closest thing to a paycheck that an artist can get, unless they have, some kind of sponsorship situation that lasts over months, years, because, the Spotify royalty streams, they don't fluctuate as much as the paychecks that this gentleman just shared. If you make 5,000 one month, and it's tough to get to 5,000, there's not that many artists. I mean, most artists aren't making that much from Spotify, but once you do break that barrier and you start to get these streaming checks, that's why it's opened up the doors for alternative financing, and these companies will come in and will advance you money based on your Spotify royalty stream, because they're fairly predictable, especially with their algorithms, and they're comfortable lending you that money because they're pretty sure that money's going to keep coming for a good amount of time. What's this cat's name again?
J Lock.
Shout out to J Lock for being transparent and sharing his experience.
The first thing I noticed, number one, like Aaron said, you can't live off of 40,000 in LA. Especially, I'm browsing through photos of his studio. He has a nice studio. This is not a cheap studio. He's not just in a studio apartment. No pun intended, with a mic and a laptop. He's got a full setup, nice stuff. So I'm like, how is he doing this? Does he have a roommate? Does he have somebody else paying his bills? He's out here, how doing the, sometimes you just got to get some money just for being cute or whatever. But I don't think that's it, because at the whole time I'm expecting this monthly number to change because of all his touring. And then at the end, I realized, he's not counting his non-direct, his indirect music money, because he really wants to focus on what he's making only off of producing songs. So I was like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense, because he's probably making at least, I would say, around 30 off of all the other musical stuff he's doing, like being a session player, playing live, touring, that kind of thing. So that would put him up around, the 70,000 mark. And when I looked it up, it cost about 70,000 just to survive in LA. And I think, oh God, that sounds miserable. Why do people want to put themselves through that? But I also have some thoughts as to why he would want to put himself through that. So I recently shared this. Speaking of transparency, last week was kind of a rough week. And in one day, I thought, oh my God, I'm having a great day. I had 6 rappers reach out, and they all wanted exclusive beats. And so we talked prices, we negotiated everything. I have everything ready to go. They're like, yeah, I'm going to pay on such and such a day. And it wasn't like I get paid next Friday. It was like 3 days from now, or this afternoon, or tomorrow morning. Every single one of them ghosted. And I'm not saying that it couldn't pick up a week from now, or like sometimes that happens a month from when we discuss some kind of business. They'll suddenly remember, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I guess I kind of do want this still, or I whatever my circumstances were that were disrupting my creativity are now gone. So let me go back and see. And sometimes the beat's gone. But when Dame was talking about Spotify being the closest thing an artist can get to a consistent paycheck for producers, I'm like, yeah, it's not Spotify, it's beat leasing. So I think those two are similar. And what I noticed was J-Lock is caught in this catch-22 that a lot of musicians find themselves in. So he's making 40,000 off music production. That's a great number. A lot of people would love to get to that point. And when you get to that point, you can scale up. It's like when people say it's hard to make your first million and it's easier to make the next 3 or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to make your first 40,000, but then you can scale that up to 100,000 pretty easily because you have such a solid foundation. Or I shouldn't say it's easy. I don't want to downplay it, but it's easier. And the catch-22 is when you're in that position where you're making enough to be encouraged, but you're not making enough to live in a stable way, then what do? You have to go do other things to make up that difference. So he's going out touring. You can't really be a full-time producer on tour. Trust me, touring, we all know about that. Touring is you get on the stage, you play, and then you just want to go to sleep. And then the next day you're going to drive, or fly or travel or whatever the case is. So the catch-22 is, on the one hand, you could scale up your income because of where you are. But on the other hand, because you're making income from something that distracts you from production, you never have time to scale up because you're not focused. So that part sucks. But second point is the narrative in the producer community, especially, is that, and have you guys heard, I'm sure both of you heard this, rap doesn't pay. In the producer community, they're always saying, do EDM, do pop, because rap doesn't pay. Well, this guy makes pop. He's not a rap producer. He makes pop, and there goes that narrative, because I'm making strictly hip-hop beats over here, and I'm making significantly more than he is. Granted, it took me years and decades, not decades, but a while, well over a decade. So I think what the lesson in that is, don't listen to these morons. Make what you love making, because that's what's sustainable. It's not someone saying, because you see in the comment section all the time, that's why y'all broke, because you make rap beats and these rappers are broke. And then someone's like, yeah, I'm going to switch to EDM. Yeah, me too. I'm going to do pop and I'm going to be rich. Have fun. And that's what happens when you're in the peanut gallery.
Are they saying that because rap artists don't typically pay, a lot of people don't want to pay, or is it because labels have smaller budgets for rap production? Why are they saying?
I think it's more because of the independent rap scene, not so much the labels. At least that's my experience. Like when I had artists whose label were paying for the beats, it's not like they're not paying astronomically, but it's like you're going to get paid. But independent artists, it seems like it's always this haggle, and like because beats are so accessible to hip hop, like a big slight that I see with producers that I've worked with, and I'm sure Payne experiences this, is, well, it's not that unique. I could just get this shit off of YouTube, So then it's just like, it almost degrades people expect you to degrade your cost in order to meet their need. So that's just my experience from the outside looking in, but Payne, definitely you.
Well, but the funny thing is, if you're going to be an asshole and not want to pay people, that doesn't matter. You could be a pop artist and say the same thing, because people love to say pop is just the same 4-chord turnaround. Or people, it's not even that deep for a lot of these people because they're not that smart. It's just something like, oh yeah, that's just some shit that you heard off the radio and copied or whatever, So I hear Dame's voice saying, well, are these people successful who say that? No, they're not. These are people who have the little default YouTube icon and a 13-year-old channel with 3 subscribers and 0 video content, or like a quick video of them at a family reunion 12 years prior. So it's not like they have any level of expertise. It's just that the internet often becomes, at the very bottom of the music community, becomes an echo chamber of terrible ideas and desperation. And so people are attracted to that. People who are going through, I don't want to get into the therapy language again, but like people who are frustrated in their career fields I feel like they either go one direction where they want to find other desperate people and just be miserable together and explain away their lack of success and demotivate themselves because it's easier, or they want to go into communities of thriving people in their field and learn what they're doing and have more. Because I think if you cut yourself off from either, you won't fully understand what the challenges and pain points are from the people who are frustrated. You won't understand what the pathway to getting away from that desperate place is from the people who have already experienced it and have scaled up from it. Last point about this guy, because he's in the pop genre, because he's in LA, and he's really suffering through because I see people do this all the time. They suffer through the LA market, and then all it takes is that one, when they get to that juncture where preparation and opportunity converge, their careers just move at light speed suddenly. So I feel like that's all it's going to take for this guy, because other producers with similar skill sets in the pop genre wake up in mansions every day. You know what I mean? And then they have legacy catalogs. People like him. So I think there is an advantage to being a pop producer, obviously, because pop just means it's short for popular. So if you're in the pop genre and you have a couple hits, those couple of hits will probably pay a lot more than if you're in a different genre like R&B or EDM, depending on the type of EDM or rap or whatever else. And those become hits just because of the way those particular audiences are monetized.